telling me, I said some stuff about Sophocles the other day, and I think the only thing I mentioned was maybe the three unities. So let's kind of back up a little bit. We're not going to go over all of the backgrounds to Greek drama, but I do want to mention a couple of things. In the chronology on page 1436, you've got a very, very brief outline of Sophocles' life. He's born sometime around 496 BC in the town or city of Colonus. Okay. In 468, I don't have it up here, he wins his first drama competition. And one thing about ancient Greek drama, it's pretty clear that it has its origins in religious festivals. And your text mentions at the festival of Dionysius. Okay, Dionysius was a god of wine, revelry, etc. Right? But this was a religious festival. The very first drama had one person, one actor, and that actor said everything. It wasn't an actor portraying multiple roles. It was just one person kind of doing a monologue. And then another writer, can't remember which, came up with two. And so you had two, and then you get three, and it builds on. Interestingly, I think I've mentioned this before, when drama dies out after the fall of Rome in 410 AD, it isn't quote-unquote reborn again until sometime after 1000 AD. And when it's reborn, it is also reborn in a religious ceremony. It's reborn in the liturgy of the church, the Easter liturgy, in fact, where you have in the Western church, you have passages read from the Gospels where on Easter night or the Easter Eve, where the women run to the tomb. They're looking, to go there to anoint Jesus' body because it hadn't been anointed before burial and stuff. And they get there and they see the stone's been rolled away and there's a guy sitting there. And they ask him, okay, can you tell us where our Lord is? And he says, he's not here. He rose from the dead. He's gone into Galilee. Those two statements become the beginnings of English drama. Can you tell us where our Lord is? That's the first question. So a person stands up in the church and kind of announces that. And then somebody plays the part of the angel. And then that develops until we get Shakespeare. All right? So, back to Sophocles. The first of the Oedipus plays that he writes is Antigone. Okay? It's written in 441. Oedipus the king is performed in 430, okay, or written in 430, around there. And then Oedipus at Colonus, we don't know exactly when it is written, but we do know it's first performed in 401. These are all BC, so 400 years before, for this one, 400 years before Christ. He's born essentially 500 years, okay, before Christ. Now, this is the order of composition. This is the order in which you need to read the plays in order to understand them. That is, the order of the action within the world of the plays is Oedipus the king comes first, then Antigone, then Oedipus at Colonus. All right? But he writes this one first, and this one is performed and produced first. How can that be? Because you have to have this, or you have to have the story at least behind this, in order to understand this. Well, the myth of Oedipus long predates Sophocles. It's probably at least, the story is probably at least 500 years or older than Sophocles himself. So there's a story kicking around in ancient Greece about this guy who was born, fated to kill his father, marry his mother, and bring children in the world that are also his siblings. So that when he writes this one, The audience is like, oh yeah, we know who Antigone is. And they're just going essentially to see what kind of spin Sophocles is going to put on the story. Okay? So, same thing then with the others. You're going to see very early on when we get into Oedipus the King, the play is just chock full of dramatic irony. That is, Oedipus is going to say an awful lot in the opening couple of pages that the audience is totally aware of what the upshot or what the result will be. That is, when he says, let the curse fall on me if I don't find the murderer of Laius, everybody out in the audience knows exactly. He is the murderer of Laius. He doesn't know that because he's saying that within the world of the play. They know that. Why? Because the story long predates Sophocles' version of it. Okay? And then Oedipus at Colonus, we get Oedipus' death. We're not reading that one. We're going to do these two. Okay? And I'll just throw this out there. Oedipus at his death is turned into a god. The gods kind of look down on him and they go, you know, that poor guy, his life just sucked from beginning to end. He suffered more than any other human. We ought to make him like one of us. Kind of implying that the gods are saying, oh, we know all about suffering. Well, the Greek gods know nothing about suffering. Okay? So on pages 1437 and 38 and 39, you got a bunch of bold-faced terms. You need to know those for quiz that we'll have on Thursday. You also need to know, page 1439, the 5 parts of a Greek drama, okay, or Greek tragedy. Prologue, Parados, Episodia, Stasimon, and Exodus, okay? Each one is kind of defined. We're told, you know, that's the order of them, etc., okay? And then tragedy at the bottom of 1439. Okay? We use that word tragedy in a variety of ways. For example, Nashville was hit by a massive tornado last night. Most people would say, what if it's a tragedy? Okay? My wife knows people who were impacted. One of the persons looks out through her living room and sees blue sky. And she's not looking through a window. It's because there's no roof anymore. Okay? One of the students in here, her whole neighborhood's apparently gone. And the business that she runs, she's got to be there because she takes care of animals. Okay? That's a tragedy. But that's not what the Greeks meant by the word. Okay? What the Greeks meant by the word, look at the bottom of 1439. The literary tragedy presents courageous individuals who confront powerful forces within or outside themselves, with a dignity that reveals the breadth and depth of the human spirit in the face of failure, defeat, and even death. Okay, so what does all that mean? It means we see somebody who is really put to the test. I mean, who really suffers. And we see how they respond to that suffering. And their response to that suffering is, even though your book doesn't mention it, your book uses the word dignity. Well, I'm going to use this word, ennobling. It makes them noble. It makes them more noble. That is, it says something about the strength of those individuals' character. Okay? What they don't do, Greek tragedy, what the tragic hero doesn't do is commit suicide. The tragic hero takes everything life throws at him and keeps going on. Okay? That's part of the reason why Shakespeare puts all those speeches about suicide in Hamlet's mouth. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to end them, which is better to do? Okay? So in a Greek tragedy, you've got someone who confronts all those things and keeps on going. Now I would suggest Now, also, in every Greek tragedy, you've got one other element that's important. Your book doesn't mention it specifically, or at least not here. Okay? And that is, every tragic hero has got to make a choice or decision at some point within the play, right? And the choice or decision he has to make, or she has to make, is made without sufficient information. That is, he or she is put into a bind, and they've got to choose, but they don't have all the information they need to make a proper choice. They've only got some of the information, okay? Here's what I'm talking about. I'm going to assume for the moment you've read all of Oedipus the King, okay? Even if you haven't, doesn't matter. Well, if we don't finish it today, we'll finish it Thursday. What's the decision? The real decision that Oedipus has to make about which he doesn't have all the information he needs. It's not in the opening few pages of the play. We get told this information much, much later. It's part of the background. It's part of the exposition of the play. We're told later in the play that when Oedipus was a boy, his father in the town of Corinth had a party, okay? And there was some old drunk at the party, and the drunk looked at Oedipus and said, drunkenly, "You're going to kill your father and sleep with your mother." Now the king told him to shut up, but it kind of bothered Oedipus. And he told his parents about it, and they said, "Don't worry about it, he's just a drunk." I mean, do you listen to drunks generally? No, you don't. But that stuck in Oedipus' mind. It bothered him. So he went to the oracle at Delphi, the very same oracle we are going to see in the first couple of pages. Okay? He goes to the oracle at Delphi to find out the truth. Because the oracle never lies. The god never lies. Apollo doesn't lie to people, supposedly. Some stories he does. Okay? So he goes, and the oracle tells him, "You are fated," right? Fated to kill your father, sleep with and marry your mother, or marry and sleep with your mother, whichever way you want to put it, and bring to light, that is, bring to birth, offspring that no one should ever see. Offspring who are your own brothers and sisters. Okay? It's at that point Oedipus has a choice to make. Put yourself, get out of the play for a moment, put yourself in Oedipus' shoes. I don't care whether you love or hate your parents, doesn't matter. But Oedipus hears that, and what's the idea that pops into his mind? Get away from home. Run away. If I am fated to kill my father, then I'm going to leave, so I'm not near my father. If I'm fated to sleep with my mother, then I'm going to move away from home, and I'm never going to see her again. Right? Who wouldn't do that? Everybody would do that. And that's the exact same choice Oedipus makes. What's the problem? What's the information he does not have? He's adopted. He doesn't know at that point. He's adopted. Okay? So if he's adopted, the people that he believes are his parents, meaning biological parents, aren't. The people that he loves as his parents aren't the ones he's fated to kill and sleep with. He could stay there, fat, dumb, and happy the rest of his life. But because he does love them, and he doesn't want to kill and sleep with them, he runs away. And in running away, he causes the fate to happen. Okay? That's an example of he's got to make a choice. He's got to decide, and he doesn't have the information he needs. Okay? That is a tragic situation, right? If he only knew, then he wouldn't have. Okay? So, go on to 1440, 1441. Everything on these 2 pages comes from, it's mentioned on 1439, comes from Aristotle in his book on poetics, okay, which is largely just about, what is drama, what is tragedy, etc., etc. And it's largely based upon this play because Aristotle says this is the greatest tragedy ever written. There are lots of other tragedies written, both by Sophocles and by Aeschylus and other writers. Okay, so he goes on and talks about, or your introduction goes on and talks about a bunch, and I want to talk about a couple of the terms. Page 1440, hamartia, tragic flaw, hubris or hybris. Okay, so hamartia. Aristotle said the tragic hero or the protagonist, okay, usually has a hamartia. All right? That's the Greek word. I'm going to keep using it for a moment. That word often gets translated in English translations of On Poetics as fatal flaw. That is, that character has something in his or her personality that forces him or her to make the tragic mistake. All right? It's a flaw in the character. Well, the word hamartia is the same word that is used in the Greek New Testament for the word that gets translated into English as sin. Well, what it means, literally, is to miss the mark. So, if I were to have everybody come up here and hand everybody a bow with a Nerf arrow and set up a target in the back with a bullseye and said, all right, here's a line, tow up to it, take a shot. If you missed the bullseye, you hamartia'd. You missed the mark. You sinned. Okay? That's what that word literally means. So Aristotle goes on and says usually the main hamartia of a tragic hero is hubris, also pronounced hubris. Okay? What is that? It's pride. But it's not just pride, right? Because you should be proud if you do well on an exam, on a paper, on something that you earn accolades for work, etc. That's something you should take pride in. This isn't that kind of pride. This is excessive. The word I usually use is overweening pride. That is superabundant pride. That's the kind of pride that says, not only did I do well on this test, but I did better than anybody who's ever taken this test. In fact, I did better than anybody who will ever take this test. All right? Get the idea? It's, I'm so much better than everybody else. I'm the model for everybody else to follow. All right? Well, we do have some of that kind of pride in some tragedies. We'll talk about whether or not Oedipus has that. Okay? Let me go back for a moment to the tragic hero, or what's called the protagonist. Protagonist comes from 2 words, protos and agonist. Protos means first, chief, or main. Agonist, sufferer. Sufferer. Originally, this term was used for wrestlers in a wrestling match. I don't know if you've ever wrestled, but even if you're just messing around, it's very easy to suffer in wrestling. You get put into a hold, that arm gets pulled back a little bit more, and it's painful. Okay? So the protagonist of a tragedy is the person who suffers the most. And usually, in a tragedy, if the tragedy is named after a person, that person is the main sufferer. That person is the quote-unquote tragic hero, like Hamlet. It's the tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. The tragedy of Julius Caesar, okay? The tragedy, if you want, of Oedipus the king. How so? How is Oedipus the chief sufferer? How does Oedipus lose more than everybody else? But I'm going to throw this wrinkle up. When we get to this play, is Antigone the one who suffers the most? Or is there somebody else who suffers more? We'll talk about it, okay? So, he mentions catharsis. Page 1440, 1441. One other comment first about this. The protagonist, the tragic hero, what kind of person should that be? According to what your introduction says. Can it be a president of the United States? No, it can't. Can it be a king? Oedipus is a king when the play opens. All right? But he's the tragic hero because the play talks about Oedipus from his early life until this period. All right? Why is this important? Because the tragic hero should be someone we can easily identify with. That is someone that we can go, that could be me. Well, I don't know about you. I can't identify in that way with a president or a CEO or, a major sports athletic figure or whatever, celebrity. They're quote unquote too high above. Okay? So it's somebody who's above the general level of everybody, but is not the highest person in society. Because you've got to be able to go, okay. And that gets to the next point, the catharsis. What's the catharsis? Catharsis means purgation, cleansing, if you want. Well, what needs to be cleansed? It's not the protagonist. See, the catharsis doesn't happen to somebody in the play. That happens to us. And it's the catharsis of pity and fear. Aristotle said what the play is designed to do is it builds up these emotions in us, the viewer, of pity and fear. Pity, because you look at that person and go, man, what a horrible life. I mean, think about Hamlet for a moment. Hamlet, he wasn't dealt a fair deck, was he? His father is killed. His mother marries his uncle. His girlfriend turns on him, is used as a pawn, as a spy. Okay? I mean, just everything keeps going wrong. So, it's designed to instill in us that, but then also fear. How fear? Because if we identify with the character and how the character behaves, then we should go. Then we should think, if I were in that same situation, I would do the same thing. I would make the same mistake. That is, fear of, well, what if I have that kind of choice put on me? So you build up those twin emotions, and by the end of the play, they're released. Okay? They're not, not released in terms of everything's resolved happily ever after. But released because we see the buildup of tension in the play, and then we see the tension released. Okay? A couple other terms, reversal, recognition. Okay? The reversal is when the play, let's look at the paragraph, page 1441, right in the middle. Tragedies are disturbing. Instead of coming away with the reassurance of a happy ending, we must take solace in the insight produced by the hero's suffering. And just as our expectations are changed, so are the protagonists. Aristotle described the moment in the plot when this change occurs as reversal, the point when the hero's fortunes turn in an unexpected direction. Okay? We'll talk about that when we get to it in the play. And then lastly, recognition. That's when the tragic hero realizes, oops, I screwed up. I made a bad decision. Or I made a decision based on not enough information. Okay, let's start with the play. Hold on just 1 second. Let me find. This is 5. This one. We got the list of characters, and we get the time and scene. Now, if you remember from the other day, Thursday, I said Aristotle also talks about the 3 unities: time, place, and action. That is, the play occurs within a 24-hour time span. The best Greek tragedies, Aristotle argued, occur within a single day. Okay? Place, you have one setting. Everything in this play occurs out in front of Oedipus's palace. All of the actions right there. Okay? Action, you have one plot. That's it. One sequence of events. Shakespeare takes every one of these and blows them out of the water. Writers before Shakespeare do. All right? Shakespeare's plays, some of them occur over a period of years. You've got things going on in England and France and other places. You know, action. You've got multiple plots. All right? So, notice the time and scene. Many years have passed since Oedipus solved the riddle of the Sphinx and became king. What was the riddle of the Sphinx? Anybody know?
The 4 legs to 2 legs.
What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, 3 legs in the evening? Anybody? Man. A baby crawls, an adult walks, and somebody old walks with a cane. Nobody could answer that, apparently. All right? So the Sphinx, we're going to find out, the Sphinx sets up outside the gates of Thebes, and people want to come in, they got to solve the riddle. If they don't solve the riddle, the Sphinx kills them, eats them, takes them as tribute, essentially. Right? And a period of time passes, and finally Oedipus shows up. He solves the riddle. He comes in, and we're going to be told very quickly, he's made king. So, many years, we're told, have passed since then. We don't know how many is many. Could be 5. Could be 15 or 20. All right? I think it's much more likely that it's probably more than 15 or 20. And here's why. We find out later, Oedipus has several children. The 2 youngest of his children are his 2 daughters. Okay? His sons are all old enough to be on their own. That probably implies they're in their early 20s. He doesn't have any children until he becomes king of Thebes. So, a number of years have passed. So Oedipus comes out because he sees all these people kneeling and praying before his altar. His altar is the altar he uses to pray to the gods at. It's not an altar to Oedipus, though he's kind of going to imply a little bit about they should be praying to him later. So he comes out and he asks them, "Why are you here? Our city reeks with the smoke of burning incense, rings with cries for the healer and wailing for the dead." So the city is covered with the smoke of incense burning. People are crying for the healer, that is, for the healing God to come down, and for the wailing for the dead. So we're told pretty quickly something's not right in Thebes. Okay? There's an illness, there's a plague. So Oedipus says, I thought it wrong, my children, to hear the truth from others, from messengers, so here I am. That is, I didn't send a servant out to go, what do they want? I'm here myself. What do you need? So the priest says, let me back up. Oedipus says to the leader, line 11, why here in kneeling? What preys upon you so? Some sudden fear, some strong desire? You can trust me. I'm ready to help. I'll do anything. I would be blind to misery, not to pity my people, kneeling at my feet. Okay? Kneeling at my feet. They're kneeling at his altar. He's kind of implying they're kneeling to him. So the priest says, skip a bit. Our city, pick up with around line 27. Our city, look around, you see with your own eyes. Our ship pitches wildly, cannot lift her head from the depths, the red waves of death. He uses the metaphor of the ship of state. That is, the state is a ship on the ocean. The ocean isn't calm, however. The ocean is suffering or is enduring a hurricane. And if the ocean's enduring a hurricane, the ship is being buffeted. Thebes is dying. Now, there's a good, short, declarative statement. That's the problem. Thebes is dying. How do we know? Fresh crops, the rich pastures, cattle sicken and die, the women die in labor, children are stillborn, and there's a plague. So pretty much everything's dying. So they've come to pray at his altar to ask the gods why. What must we do to solve the plague? Okay? So they say, the leader says, line 39, now we pray to you. Now we ask you. You cannot equal the gods. Your children know that, bending at your altar. Why does he say you cannot equal the gods? Because if you did, that would be the greatest example of hubris that there is. Of overweening pride. To say, don't worry about praying to the gods. I will solve your problems. All right? That would be equating himself with a god. And notice the leader says, we're not saying you're equal to the gods. The gods aren't going to zap us for that. Okay? But we rate you first of men, both in the common crises of our lives, face to face. Why do they rate him first of men? You solved the riddle of the Sphinx. Come on. You can do this. Okay? So, he says, line 50. Oedipus King, we bend to you, your power, we implore you, all of us on our knees, find us strength, rescue. Come on, maybe the God has said something to you, maybe you've heard something. What do you know? 55, the man of experience, you see it every day. His plans will work in a crisis, his first of all. The man of experience. This is why they're going to Oedipus. He's been ruling for years. You've got experience dealing with these kinds of hardships, these kinds of problems. Surely you've thought up something, okay? So the leader goes on, act now, act, defend yourself. Your former glory, why former glory? Is he saying Oedipus has lost his glory? Just keep pushing. Kind of. The former glory is the glory you had when you initially defeated the Sphinx and came in. Right? So Oedipus says, already taken care of. Okay? Skipped about line 80 or so. In the building up to line 80, he says, you haven't told me anything I don't know. I've already been at work at this. And then he says, line 80, after a painful search, I found one cure. I acted at once. I sent Creon, okay, who is his brother-in-law, brother to his wife. I sent him to Delphi, Apollo, the prophet's oracle, to find out what we could. Okay? Now, the oracle at Delphi had a stone out in front of it that had inscribed on it the words, know thyself. All right? We'll talk about that in a moment. So he says, I sent Creon to find out from the gods what's wrong. This is the same oracle, by the way, the same place that we're going to be told later on Oedipus went to find out whether or not what the drunk said was true. And he says, and he should be back today. Okay? Notice, time hasn't passed per se. That is, he sent Creon before the play opened. Okay? So everything's going to happen within that 24 hours. And he's kind of like, and I wonder why he's late. He should be back by now. And the priest says, there he is, he's coming. So we see Creon come in. And Oedipus says, what message from the gods? About line 98. Good news. Good news. I've got a solution. I tell you, even the hardest things to bear, if they should turn out well, all would be well. He said, okay, but what were the God's words? I mean, tell us. Well, if you want my report in the presence of these, who are the these? It's the chorus. But the chorus represents all the people of Thebes. So what Creon is really saying is, well, if you want my report on CNN and Fox and MSNBC and all the cable news outlets, if you want it spread in front of all the people, I'm ready, or we can go inside. Why does he say, or we can go inside? What role is Creon essentially playing here? It's like that of an ambassador. Okay? Let's say Trump sent Mike Pompeo to North Korea to get a real peace, not the stupid little, photo ops and that kind of nonsense. I mean, real peace. Get rid of all the nukes, the whole 9 yards. In really hard-nailed negotiations. And Pompeo comes back to the White House, all the news cameras there, and he says, good news. Good news. I've got great news from Kim Jong-un. And I can say it here in front of everybody, or you and I have to go inside first. Why? It's not for our ears. Creon is saying, Oedipus, come on, you and I, we'll talk about this. What word does he bring? Kill the man. Kill what man? The man who killed Elias. Or find the man. Find the man who killed Elias. Okay? So, Oedipus. No, speak out. Speak. I grieve for these my people far more than I fear for my own life. That's an example of dramatic irony. Again, because everybody in the audience, they know how this is going to play out. And they're like, oh, Oedipus, you're a damn fool. You should shut your mouth. You should go inside and listen to what he has to say. So Creon says, all right. And he tells them what has to be done. Drive the corruption out. What corruption? What do we have to do? What's the source of the trouble? Banish the man, top of 1446, or pay back blood with blood, murder said, okay, banish the man, banish the murderer, or kill him. Whose murder? What are you talking about? Our leader, my lord, was once a man named Elias. He said, yeah, I heard about him. Never met the man myself. More dramatic irony. Well, he was killed. Apollo says, pay the killers back, whoever is responsible. Where? Here, in Thebes. You know, notice that. Crayon says, in response to Oedipus's question, where on earth are they, that is the killers? Here in Thebes. Now, later on, after Oedipus finishes talking with Crayon, he's kind of going to challenge the people. He's going to say, all right, if you're the killer, just fess up. We won't even touch you. You won't even be beaten. We'll just banish you. Okay? Banishing will mean end of the plague. Nobody answers. Okay. If you know who the killer is, fess up, and we'll go find him. If the killer's not in Thebes, but is outside Thebes, and you know where, tell me where. And yet here, Crayon said, the killer is in Thebes. So later on, when Oedipus tries to elicit information from the people, he says maybe he's a foreigner somewhere, right? Because it'd be like a foreigner to kill a king. Well, Crayon has already said that the god has said, nope, he's in Thebes, right? So, they go back and forth, and Oedipus says, line 149, 150. I'll start again. I'll bring it all to light myself. I'll start again kind of means I'll go back to the beginning. Well, what's the beginning? When Laius was killed, before I became king. I'll bring it all to light myself. A very prevalent theme throughout the play, light versus darkness. Or related, sight versus blindness. Okay? So, Oedipus goes on. Apollo's right, so are you, Cram, but now you have me to fight for you. I'll rid us of this corruption, he says. 156. But not to assist some distant kinsmen, no, but for my own sake, I'll rid us of this corruption. Not to rid us of some distant, not to assist some distant kinsmen. He's talking about, I'm not doing this for revenge, like we had in Hamlet. All right? Again, dramatic irony. He is a distant kinsman. He's not very distant, actually. He says, but for my own sake, I'll rid us of this corruption. Why for his own sake? Well, if somebody would kill one king, what's going to stop him from killing another? I mean, if you're not afraid to kill a king, whoever killed, and he says that. So he says, by avenging Laius, I defend myself. Cool. So the chorus comes out, gets a big long speech, chorus comes out and says something, says a bunch. Yeah, big long speech. Sorry, turn 2 pages. In 1449, Oedipus comes back out. And says, you praying to the gods? Let me grant your prayers. That is hubris. No. You don't need to bother the gods with this. I can solve your problems. See, anytime in Greek literature, anytime someone kind of steps on the prerogatives, the responsibilities, the duties of the gods are going to swat you down. And usually you get swatted down pretty hard. So, he says, I will speak out now as a stranger to the story, line 248. A stranger to the crime, more dramatic irony. If I'd been present then, there would have been no mystery, no long hunt without a clue in hand. More dramatic irony. Why? He was present then. We find out much later. The audience is already totally aware of this. So he says, so now counted a native Theban years after the murder. That is, people look at me now like as if I was native born to Thebes. By saying that, he's telling us he's not. Well, we already know that, right? He wasn't in Thebes when the Sphinx was out there. He came from outside into Thebes. So he says, now I'm counted a native Theban. To all of Thebes, therefore, he says, I make this proclamation. If anybody of you know who killed Laius, just tell us. Tell us. And he goes through those options that I mentioned. And notice he pauses, and there's no reply. He says, okay. He gives another option. If you know that the murderer is a stranger, speak up. No reply. But if you keep silent, if someone panicking, trying to shield himself or friend or kin, and rejects my offer, listen to what's going to happen to you. Banish this man, whoever he may be. Never shelter him, never speak a word to him, never make him partner to your prayers, blah, 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 blah. So unless you speak up, if you know who this person is, here's what's going to happen to you. Again, you get a break in the printing, okay, which probably indicates Oedipus pauses, and he's still waiting for somebody, and there's no response. Now my curse on the murderer, line 280. Whoever he is, a lone man unknown in his crime, or one among many. Why does he say a lone man unknown in his crime? Because Crayon said earlier, well, first the leader said thieves did it, multiple killers, and now he says one or one among many. Let that man drag out his life in agony, step by painful step. I curse myself as well. Oh. If by any chance he proves to be an intimate of our house, that is, anybody living in the palace. Well, yeah, by chance, he does. But it's not chance. It's fate. See, in the Greek cosmological system, you have the gods who, this is us, by the way, the gods who have an influence on us, and fate has an influence on us. The gods can see fate. They know what fate has in store for humanity, and they can tell us about that. The gods can't change fate. The gods can't control fate. And fate doesn't control the gods. Okay? So, we're being told, when he says, if by chance, well, it wouldn't be by chance. It would be fate. All right? If by any chance he proves to be an intimate of our house here at my hearth with my full knowledge, may the curse I just called down on him strike me. What's the with my full knowledge mean? It's not if he lives here with my full knowledge. It's with my full knowledge, may the curse I just called down on him fall on me. Well, we can jump to the end of the play, because that's exactly what's going to happen. So he gives orders. Bottom of 1450. But I'm the king now. I hold the throne, he says, that he held then, that is Laius. Possess his bed, that is, I'm married to his wife, who shares our seed in more ways than he can imagine. Why our seed might be the same. Children born of the same mother might have created blood bonds between us. And he's completely obtuse to what he's saying. The audience is snickering, probably, laughing at what he's saying. All right? So, he and the leader go back and forth, and the leader's like, hey, there is someone who can tell us probably. Tiresias. who shows up in a lot of Greek literature. Tiresias, the blind, as he's also called, the blind seer. Notice, sight versus blindness. He's the blind one who sees, because he's a prophet. Okay? So, Oedipus says, I'm way ahead of you. I've already sent for him. Page 1451, line 331 and following. The leader mentions rumors. Well, what rumors? Laius was killed, they say, by travelers. Oedipus, yeah, I know, but I can't find the murderer. Okay? So, Oedipus addresses Tiresias when he's brought in, page 1451 at the bottom. And how does he address it? What kind of language does he use to talk to him? O Tiresias, master of all the mysteries of our life, all you teach and all you dare not tell, signs in the heavens, signs that walk the earth. Blind as you are, you can feel all the more what sickness haunts our city. You, my Lord, are the one shield, the one Savior we can find. In other words, if you don't know the answer to this riddle, no one will. Okay? Has he said anything negative in that little bit of introduction to Tiresias? No, he hasn't. It's all, you're our only hope, you know. So Tiresias comes in. And one thing you got to understand about a prophet is a forth teller and a teller forth. The forth teller here means it's going to tell you what's going to happen, and the teller forth is one who tells you what does happen. So he prophesies the future, and he used the phrase that's used all too common today. He speaks truth to power. That is, he doesn't care who you are. He's going to tell you the truth no matter what. All right? And the other thing about the fortune telling, the foretelling what's going to come, you got to be right 100% of the time. If you're going to be a prophet, you can't be betting odds of 80, 85%. Because then you're just, betting the odds. If you're a prophet, you're always right. And in all the literature of ancient Greece, where Tiresias shows up, he's always right. He's never been wrong. Okay? So, listen to Tiresias' first words. Oedipus says, 357, we are in your hands. For a man to help others with all his gifts and native strength, that is the noblest work. So he's kind of setting up Tiresias. You are our only hope. The greatest work of a man is to help his people. All right, let her rip. How terrible to see the truth when the truth is only pain to him who sees. Tiresias, yeah, I see the truth, and it's pain. Pain for who? Well, if he tells it, it's going to be pain for him. I knew it well, but I put it from my mind. Else I knew. What? What do you mean? Why so grim, so dire? Just send me home. You bear your burdens, I'll bear mine. What burdens is he suggesting Oedipus should bear on his own? Well, the burdens of the plague in the city. In other words, you suffer what's coming and I'll suffer too. That is, I'll suffer the truth I know, which he's going to tell us on the next page. You're the killer you're looking for. Okay? It's better that way. Just believe me. What's he mean it's better that way? Kim, let's go inside. Let me tell you privately. Well, that's a strange response. You're withholding the word of God. Tell me now. I fail to see that your own words are so well timed. I'd rather not have said the same thing said of me. For the love of, don't turn away. We beg you, all of us. You don't know. and I will never reveal my dreadful secrets, not to say your own. I won't reveal my secrets. That is, he's kind of saying the secrets I have that are about me. Use the phrase we use today, my skeleton's in the closet, and I won't reveal your skeletons in the closet either. You know and you won't tell. You know the truth. You know who the murderer is, and you won't tell us. You're bent on betraying us. Notice the logical leap that Oedipus makes there. You won't tell, therefore, you've decided to destroy Thebes. I don't want to cause pain for you or me. Why are you interrogating me? You'll get nothing. Why, you scum of the earth, you'd enrage a heart of stone. You won't talk, nothing moves you, out with it. You criticize my temper, unaware of the one you live with. You revile me. What's Tiresias trying to do without doing it? He's insinuating some things about Oedipus. He doesn't want to come right out and say, Oedipus, you're sleeping with your mother. Because even in ancient Greece, not a good thing to do. Who could restrain his anger? What outrage? You spurn the city? What will come, will come. That is fate. That is a perfect definition of fate. What will come, will come. What will be, will be. You can't change it. Right? It's in one sense, it's the theme of the play. Fate. You can't change it. Okay? Even if what will come? Come on, tell us that at least. No, I'm not going to say anything else. Go all angry, and Oedipus starts to lose control. And says, oh, he makes another huge logical leap. This isn't like leaping, one or two steps. This is like leaping a mile. You helped hatch the plot. That's why you won't tell. The conclusion he jumps to, you were involved in the murder of Laius. That's why you won't tell. You did the work. Okay. Yeah, you couldn't have killed him. Why? With your own hands. Because you're blind and everything. Tiresias. Okay, you want to know, really? Notice how Tiresias responds. Think of Polonius's advice to his son here. Take every man's censure, but give no man thy voice. That is, listen to what they say, but don't respond. Tiresias, he responds. Both barrels. I charge you then, submit to that decree you just laid down. What decree was that? Banish the man. Okay? From this day onward, speak to no one, not these citizens, not myself. You're the curse. You're the corruption of the land. Ed, I can't believe you're saying this. I've already said it. The truth with all its power lives in who set you up for this? So notice the next leap Oedipus is making. Couldn't have done this on your own. Somebody put you up to it. Who's he going to suggest did that? Creon. Okay? Line 4:10, 4:12 or so. Tiresias comes out with it. I say you are the murderer you hunt. By God, you'll pay. Oh, you want more? Okay. Here's more. So you can really rage. No, go ahead, Oedipus says. You cannot imagine, I tell you, you and your loved ones live together in infamy. You cannot see how far you've gone in guilt. Now, from what we learn later in the play, what should Oedipus start thinking about here? murder father, marry mother. Okay? So Oedipus goes on. You've lost your power. 4:22. Stone blind, stone deaf, senses eyes blind as stone. Tiresias, I pity you, flinging at me the very insults each man here will fling at you so soon. Why are these insults each man here will fling at Oedipus? What Tiresias is doing here, he's foretelling the future. He's foretelling what's going to happen to Oedipus. What Oedipus actually is going to do with his own hands. Okay? Oedipus, blind, lost in the light, endless night that nursed you. You can't hurt me or anyone else who sees the light. You can never touch me. And Tiresias is right. You're right. It's not me. Who's kind of doing this? Who's going to reveal all this? It's Apollo. I'm just a conduit. I'm just a megaphone, a telephone. You know, the God's on one end, and Crayon was on the other, and I just, okay? And that's when Oedipus says, Crayon, he's the one who put you up to this. Crayon is not your downfall. No, you are your own. Okay? So, Oedipus goes on. He accuses Crayon, his brother-in-law. And the leader says, line 460, I'd suggest his words were spoken in anger. Who's the his? Tiresias. In other words, you got him riled up, and he just responded. Oedipus, yours too. And it isn't what we need. What's the leader saying? Y'all just calm down. You're going to get us killed. Just calm down. You're getting too riled up. The best solution to the oracle, the riddle post, that's what we should look for. So Tiresias says, I'm not your slave, 467. I serve Apollo. I don't need Crayon to speak for me in public life. Okay, so you're going to mock my blindness? Fine, go ahead. Here, let me tell you this, though. You, with your precious eyes, you're blind to the corruption of your life, to the house you live in, those you live with. Who are your parents? Just kind of throws that out of nowhere. Who are your parents? Who's your mama and papa? Who's your daddy? Who's your mommy? Come on, Oedipus, answer. Do you know? All unknowing, you are the scourge of your own flesh and blood. Why unknowing? Because when he killed Laius, he didn't know Laius was his father. When he slept with Jocasta, he didn't know Jocasta was his mother. He was totally ignorant of those two facts. All unknowing, you are the scourge of your own flesh and blood, the dead below the earth, his father, and the living here above. And the double lash of your mother and your father's curse will whip you from this land one day. Okay? What rock of Kithaeron won't scream back in echo? And you've got the gloss. Kithaeron, the mountains where Oedipus was abandoned as an infant. Infant abandonment was a regular practice. Sophocles isn't mixing that up. He isn't creating that out of whole cloth. If a family had too many daughters, take it off to the mountain and leave it. Not as an offering, just leave it to be killed. It's still practiced today, not in Greece, but in parts of India, for example. Okay? So, the day you learn the truth about your marriage, the wedding march that sang you into your halls, the lusty voyage home to the fatal harbor. Oedipus, that's it. Get out of my sight. Tiresias, 496. Absurd am I to you, not to your parents. The ones who bore you found me sane enough. Parents, who is my father? Notice he said, who are your parents? Like a virus, like the coronavirus. That idea gets planted into Oedipus's mind, and now he asks, wait, who is my father? This day will bring your birth and your destruction. This day, this 24-hour time period, will bring your birth. In other words, you're going to find out who your real father is, and it will be your end, not his death. His death doesn't come for a long time. Okay? Why? Because of his own curse. His own curse. Let this person bear his long life out, he says, in suffering. Oedipus, riddles. All you got is more riddles. And he's like, yeah, but aren't you the riddle solver? Come on, you solved the riddle of the Sphinx. You should be good at this. All right? So, Tiresias wants to leave Oedipus. Take him away. You're a nuisance here. Out of the way. The irritation is gone. And he says, I will go once I have said what I came here to say. I'll never shrink from the anger in your eyes. You can't destroy me. Listen to me closely. So, Oedipus is making his way towards the palace door as Tiresias is kind of yelling this after him. The man you've sought so long, proclaiming, cursing up and down, the murderer of Laius, he is here. A stranger, you may think, who lives among you. Why a stranger? Because Oedipus isn't native to Thebes. He's an immigrant. Okay? But he will take no joy in the revelation. Blind, who now has eyes. Beggar, who now is rich. That is, he will be blind, he will be a beggar. He will grope his way toward a foreign soil, a stick tapping before him, step by step. And Oedipus goes in power. So Oedipus hears all that. All right? Revealed at last, brother and father both. He doesn't hear this. We hear this. And the chorus hears this. But Oedipus doesn't. Revealed at last, brother and father both, to the children he embraces, to his mother, son, and husband both. So we've just been told the person who is the queen is also his mother. He sowed the loins his father sowed. He spilled his father's blood. Go in, reflect on that. And if you find I've lied, from this day onward, call the prophet blind. Okay? And the chorus is like, whew, that's a lot to chew on. I mean, he's never been wrong before. When has the God been wrong? When has the God told him lies? Etc., etc. Line 550, the skilled prophet scans the birds and shatters me with terrors. That is, captures the bird, slits its guts, pours them out and goes, that tells me the future. And he's never been wrong. But I can't accept him. Oedipus can't be the murderer, but I can't deny him. He's never been wrong. I don't know what to say. The chorus is like, who's going to tell us, the truth? Okay? And Crayon comes in. Why? Because somebody has taken word to Crayon. Oedipus accused you of the murder of Laius. Okay? So he says, I had to come defend myself. And the lady, yeah, he did, but he was angry and, Okay? Crayon, yeah, but charges made in public, right? Yeah, but he was angry. Was his glance 590 steady, his mind right when the charge was? In other words, Oedipus wasn't crazy, right? His eyes weren't rolling. He wasn't foaming at the mouth or anything. No, he looked okay. And Oedipus comes on. You, here? So what does Oedipus do? He accuses Crayon openly, publicly, of being involved. Bottom of 1457. Crayon, are you quite finished? Are you done yet? Shut the hell up. It's your turn to listen. Hear me out, then judge the facts. They go back and forth. We're going to skip. Okay? So, They talk about Laius. And Creon and Oedipus talk about what happened to Laius and talk about Tiresias. And Oedipus asks about Tiresias, line 629. Did he ever refer to me then, at that time? That is, did Tiresias ever say anything about me back when I first became king? No, not when I was in his presence. But you investigated Laius' murder, didn't you? Well, I mean, we tried, but we couldn't discover anything. Okay? So they go back and forth. Oedipus says, you will never convict me of the murder. Creon, stop, just time out. You're married to my sister, right? 645. A genuine discovery. It's like, ooh, you're real smart there, Creon. Okay, so you rule the land with her, right? Equal power, which is very odd, by the way, that the queen has any power. So you have Oedipus, Jocasta. She gets from me whatever she desires. And I'm the third, right? All of us are equals. Nice little triumvirate. So you have Oedipus, Jocasta, and Creon. But these two rule. Yeah, and that's the problem. He goes, no, calm down. Look at it rationally. Who in his right mind would rather rule and live in anxiety than sleep in peace? What's Creon get to in this passage? He says, think about it for a moment. You and your wife rule, and I get all the perks of power without what? None of the responsibilities. I don't have to make life and death decisions. I don't have to balance the budget. I don't have to X, Y, Z. I get Air Force One whenever I want it. I get tickets to all the plays. I get, again, all the accoutrements of power without any other responsibility. Why would I want your job? Put yourself in Creon's shoes. It'd be stupid, right? So he says, no, I've never conspired against you. And he says, 676, you want proof? That is, you want real proof? Go to Delphi yourself. Go to the oracle yourself. Okay? Which is kind of interesting because Oedipus has been there once before. Examine the oracle, see if I've reported the message word for word. And if you think I, in Tiresias, have plotted anything, arrest me, execute me. Not on the strength of one vote, two in this case, mine as well as yours. But don't convict me on sheer, unverified surmise. That is, don't convict me merely on charges. Go ask the oracle. The oracle will tell you the truth. Okay? Leader, that's some good advice there, Oedipus. You should listen to him. Those who jump to conclusions may be wrong. When my enemy, Oedipus says, moves against me quickly, plots in secret, I move quickly too. I must. That is, I don't have time to go to the oracle. I've got to act now. Well, what's the problem with that kind of logic? What if you act wrongly? Okay? Another possible theme. Rashness or impulsiveness. Oedipus is extremely impulsive. Okay? So, Creon says, so what do you want? You want me banished? Oedipus, no, I want you dead. Why? For a grudge? Okay? They go back and forth. Jocasta comes out. Pay line 710 and following. Why the yelling? Notice how she speaks to her brother and her husband, by the way. Aren't you ashamed? To Oedipus. Into the palace, now! What's that sound like? A mother. You, get inside. Cram, go home. Probably older sister, I imagine. The youngest of 5 with 3 older sisters. Okay. Why make such a furor over nothing? And Crayon says, your husband accused me of. Okay. Oedipus says, Oedipus, honor the solemn oath he swears to heaven. If he swore that oath to heaven, he'd be a fool to do that if he's lying. Because the gods will. Okay. So, Oedipus, the chorus, Crayon, they all kind of go back and forth. Jocasta asks, middle of 1461, what started all this? The chorus says, loose, ignorant talk. Rumors of Elias. Okay. So, bottom of 1461, Jocasta says, for the love of God, Oedipus, tell me too, what is it? Why this rage? And he says, I will. And he looks at the chorus. And he says, Crayon, come on, slow down, back up. He sent his prophet, Crayon. Crayon keeps his own. Okay, what prophet? What prophet? Line 780. Listen to me. And learn some peace of mind. No skill in the world, nothing human can penetrate the future. No human can foretell the future. Now, she says that on the basis of what? Here's proof. An oracle came to Elias one fine day. I won't say it came from Apollo. Maybe it came from one of his underlings. That is a lesser god. And that oracle said that doom would strike him down at the hands of a son. Our son, in fact, to be born of our own flesh and blood. But Elias, according to what we've heard, was killed by strangers, thieves. Oh, look at the additional information we now get. At a place where 3 roads meet. We haven't been told that before. My son, he wasn't 3 days old. And the boy's father fastened his ankles, had a henchman fling him away on a barren, trackless mountain. How were his ankles fastened? They weren't with manacles like handcuffs. They were fastened by a steel rod being driven through the ankles. Outside of the right, inside of the right, outside of the inside of the left, to the outside of the left. Okay? That's why he's named Oedipus, clubfoot. Because when the rod was pulled out, bony formations were made, and so he walks with a limp. So she says, that's what prophets and prophecy will get you. Nonsense. Strange hearing you just now. My mind wandered, my thoughts racing back and forth. Why back and forth? Back? I heard a prophecy like that once. He doesn't say that yet. It's going to come later. Forth to now. How many of these prophecies can there be? She says, what do you mean? He said, I thought you heard Elias was cut down at a place where 3 roads meet. Yeah. When? Or excuse me, where? Phokis. That's where it was. This is Phokis. When? So he knows the where, now the when. Herald's no sooner reported Elias dead than you showed up. Oh my God, my God. What's happening? That's the reversal. That's the recognition. Oedipus is going, oh, I'm a fool. Okay? All right, we'll pick up there. We'll finish this play on Thursday. So, and we'll pick up right there, and there'll be a quiz.